far, far away, in comes episode 63 of Last Man In podcast.
Oh shit, I was doing the theme to Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Totally wrong.
So, you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours. The world's crumbling, at least Canada is. There's a new prime minister, so it means, like, the sky's falling and there's an apocalypse. What else? Oh, yeah. This Star Wars trailer came out. Let's just forego hockey for this episode and just talk about the election slash the Star Wars trailer.
Talk about
because
how...
I think that's way more important than whatever's happened this week.
Should we talk about
It's
how...
not like
Should we talk about how movies 1, 2, and 3 are better than 4, 5, and 6?
Boom! Right here, Dan. Yep.
I just want to see what Greg says.
You already know what he's going to say. Greg, what's your thoughts on 1, 2, 3 as opposed to 4, 5 horrendous?
Okay, first of all, there's this thing called a story that 4, 5, and 6 tell. 1, 2, and 3 is just a bunch of computer-generated bullshit.
Yeah, and have you seen the movie quality of 4, 5, 6? It's like, I can shit out better looking stuff than that.
You also got to realize they were made in the late 70s, early 80s, and they made huge... They were the first movies to do that kind of stuff. Like,
what, to shit out garbage?
The technology they used was unbelievable. Like, the entire Battle of Hoth scene, oh my god, the entire Death Star scene was used by freaking figurines, man. Like, that is the coolest part of that.
Well, that's cool,
I
but...
get that back then it was, like, the coolest thing ever, but, like, now you watch, like, I don't know, what's the best special effects in a movie that's come out recently? I don't know. Avengers?
Inception.
Yeah, and then you watch the old Star Wars, you're like...
Yeah, this is bad. Was this made inside of my poster?
I know.
Your Jones movies are like that, too.
Oh, I know. The first Terminator is terrible. It's awful. The special effects are awful. But...
Exactly.
Okay, let's get right down to it. Greg?
We got hockey to talk about.
Hold on, Greg. Who's your favorite character in Star Wars before we move on? Because you know, Dan and I, you already know ours. We're going to tease it for the people.
You're breaking up. You're dying. I cannot hear you.
Okay, well, Dan and I's favorite character is Jar Jar Binks. Come at us, Internet.
No.
Mine is.
Wait, what's his name?
I'll stand by him.
Mace Windu. Is that Liam Neeson's character? No, that's Samuel Jackson's character.
Hey, is Sean Bean in this one? Like, right
He's gonna die if he is.
Okay, Greg, what's up? How's Hockey World?
You guys there?
Hello?
We're there, Greg.
We're definitely there.
Is he actually serious about us breaking up?
I think so.
Greg?
I don't think we just pissed him off. I think he's actually can't hear us.
Here, I'll try calling him back. I'm going to hang up. Well, Dan, you fill us in on what happened with the Jets this week.
I don't know. When was the last time you did the podcast?
Well, a week ago.
So
what kind of fan are you?
I don't know. How many games? Okay, so we're starting what on?
We're starting a Flames Blues. That's all they've played.
Flames. Jets won the game 3-1, I believe.
Were you at that game?
No, I caught the second and third period.
And what'd you think of it?
I thought the Jets looked pretty good. Thought Calgary looked pretty bad. From what I heard, Calgary looked really good in the first, though, and the Jets did not. If I remember correctly, who scored?
Your stupid audio problems.
Hey, he's back.
Hey, what's up, Greg? Welcome back to the show. Oh, did he cut out again?
God.
Not again. Oh, no.
This is awful.
Well, okay. From what I picked up from the Flames game, Dustin Byfuglien essentially played hero for everyone. But what I want to...
True. He did have that beautiful goal. Wow, okay. Beautiful move at the blue line. Terrible goal by Ramo.
Terrible goal. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can get Greg to stick around.
I could build the suspense.
Yes? Are you back now?
You can hear us the whole time, couldn't you?
I can hear you now. No, I actually lost the ability to hear you guys.
It's fine. You
sound a lot better.
We wanted to lead into the...
I think there's just so much bullshit spewing from your mouths. My phone just didn't want...
Oh, you couldn't You couldn't handle the power of the JJ Binks. That's why.
That's all.
No, I couldn't handle the stupidity of you calling me the prequel trilogy anywhere near the same brilliance of the fucking other ones.
I just wanted to make you mad. I just want to see what happens.
We have to just point out, okay, Dan, Jets fan, Cam, Flyers fan, Greg, Leafs fan. Who are you going to go with on this one? Come on, guys. I mean, the Leafs fans, honestly.
Really? Yeah.
All right, Greg. Did you watch the Jets games this week?
I did. Did not watch much.
Okay, well,
I watched part of the home opener against Calgary.
Oh yeah, that was
I was enjoying a nice frosty beverage at my neighborhood watering hole.
Nice frosty beverage.
Okay, so what did you get, chocolate or vanilla? And why were you at Wendy's watching a Jets game?
Because they have TVs in Wendy's now.
Yeah, they do.
Really?
Yeah, you've been there.
They have TVs in Wendy's now.
I haven't been to Wendy's in forever.
Dan, remember back in university, totally not on topic. Remember in university when sometimes we go after, when you would drive me home and we go to Wendy's and get Baconators, and we'd regret the decision for the next 6 days.
It wasn't a Baconator, it was a double Baconator.
It was a double Baconator, you're right.
We should do,
a single Baconator hates Jesus and puppies. And
I've never conquered the triple. I want to.
You know what? Hey, we owe you a fast food meal still.
That's true.
So we have to do that.
Yep, we will.
I also owe Cameron a Slurpee.
How do you owe me a Slurpee?
I thought we bought him a Slurpee. Did we?
Oh yeah, no, because I did a challenge last week. He didn't think I could name 10 Phoenix Coyotes, and I did it.
Yeah.
I conquered the impossible.
Technically, there's none. So.
Ah, yeah. Oh, Arizona.
Weren't they 4-1, and Anaheim was what, 1-4? And was Chicago.
They're 3-2.
Loss of the season.
They're 3-2. Let's settle down here.
Still though, you have to be real and say that Phoenix is doing well right now.
Oh, of course.
Although,
they're doing a hell of a lot better than everyone thought they were going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we all knew they were going to get 3 wins. We just didn't know they'd have them in a row.
That's true.
Arizona.
I don't think they'll be as bad as everyone thought they were going to be, but they're still not going to be that good.
No, they really aren't. But let's get to the Jets before we talk about other hockey teams.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the Jets played Calgary in Winnipeg for the home opener. And did either of you guys watch any of this hockey game?
I caught the second and third
I
periods.
saw the highlights of Byfuglien's game-winning goal, which I'll wait till we get there to give my opinion on it.
I'll give you my opinion on it. It was a beautiful move at the blue line, and it was a terrible goal. Because that puck should never go in. That's awful.
That's an ill-advised shot. That is a low-percentage shot.
Low percentage.
I thought he was going to pass it.
Low percentage shot, but that's a save. That has to be a save 10 times out of 10. That's
good on Byfuglien keeping his head up, ready to go, and just putting it on net, and it went in. But Byfuglien took that shot because he knew that I think it was Romo that was in net wasn't coming that area. So otherwise, I'm sure he would have taken it around and waited for the pass and found somebody. But still, pretty good.
Yeah, good on him for seeing that he was cheating a little bit, and he slammed it home. And there was a coach's challenge on that one too. First one I'd seen, so that was interesting.
It was a little different than other ones, but
it's a little different than the NFL. I will say that. It's a little weird seeing it.
I only want to talk about the NFL.
I'm still not sold on the challenge in hockey, though. I don't know. I don't know.
Greg, why don't you want to talk about the NFL? Did something happen to the Falcons this weekend?
Oh no, they lost the game.
To the Saints.
They lost.
Yeah, that's
Thursday,
true.
But to fill everyone in, I'm a Falcons fan. But besides that point, every Sunday I go to my friend's house and we watch football from the 12 o'clock game all the way through to Sunday nighter. He has Sunday tickets, so we watch all the games. And we've noticed a trend is that the refs seem to be more and more trying to control games, calling pretty much not everything, but they're just making really questionable calls all the time. And
do you notice now that when they call a penalty, they actually explain what the guy did, on the microphone?
Yeah.
It's not just holding defense. It's holding defense. He obstructed this player from blah 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 blah. They actually give a full blown explanation now of the call.
That's good.
Weird. It is good.
Not all the time. But,
it is.
Nonetheless, I think the NFL's had some questionable refereeing this year. I don't know about the NHL. I haven't watched enough hockey games, honestly, to determine whether or not I feel that the refereeing's been good. But I'm sure it's been fine at times.
It's been about as piss poor as it usually is.
Yeah.
It's pretty much spot on with where they usually are.
Why do you say that? Just because Byfuglien gets a penalty for hitting a guy with his forearm to the head, and people are like, "Oh,
He charged him!"
He didn't hit anyone in the head.
To the head.
That was Trouba that hit the guy in the head with a forearm. That should have been a penalty for sure. Buff just steamrolled a guy, and it was terrible because he weighs 300 pounds more than Bouwmeester. That's why it looks so bad.
Bouwmeester is a toothpick, but also when Bouwmeester came up his helmet, like to not no visual at all for anyone but Dan, but like helmet normally, Bouwmeester's helmet was half off his head.
I saw it. And I don't blame him for taking a swing. I'd be mad too, but it was a clean hit. It was bad. It looked terrible because Byfuglien had momentum with him, and he's huge.
I would have given the charging.
For
sure.
His feet weren't moving. They showed the replays.
It's the momentum you're carrying forward.
He had a lot of momentum with him. I'll give him that. But his feet weren't moving when he did not. Like the whole way he was gliding into him. So I didn't agree with that. If anything, give Byfuglien 2 and give the other guy 2 for punching him, or give the third guy, whoever jumped in, give him 2 minutes. But
yeah, I think the guy jumping in should have gone 2. I've only seen it a couple times, so my memory is a little foggy on this. Did Bouwmeester even have was he around the puck at all? Or?
He had the puck and then he just passed it.
He passed the puck away and Byfuglien just
he committed to the hit.
Byfuglien was going to hit him before he even got into the puck.
Byfuglien in trouble and the rest of the Jets in trouble so many times this season because they're a good hitting team, but they gotta flip and find a way to stop taking so many stupid penalties. If Bouwmeester doesn't have the puck, okay, you can finish him. You don't have to kill him and end his career. That's, to me, the hit was over the line.
But now we're gonna get to the point where it's you can't hit a guy too hard. That's ridiculous.
Man, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what is that accomplishing? It's not accomplishing anything. And in the end of the day, it's still hurting your team, and that's what he's been doing all season. Take out the Calgary goal, he's been taking penalty after penalty after penalty this season. And you want to stop being disciplined, you want to be more disciplined, don't hit a guy that's defenseless after the puck's already gone. Give him a little rub. Make sure he knows that you're there. Not steamroll through him. I don't agree that it was. I think it should have been called, but nonetheless, the fact is that it's still a penalty what he did, and it's not a hockey play. None of that was a hockey play. It was Byfuglien. Look how big I am. I'm going to truck through someone.
I don't know. I completely disagree. It was a clean hit. It looked bad because this is another case where Byfuglien gets a lot of penalties just because he's too strong, and every hit he does looks way worse because he's so big. It was a clean, there was nothing wrong with it. It looked terrible. Yeah, it looked like he got killed because he did. But he didn't hit him in the head. He didn't charge him. He passed the puck away. So it's
a nonsense hit. It has no place in the game. You want to protect more players?
Yeah. Well, you know what? If Ryan Reeves had a chance to do that to someone on the Jets, he'd absolutely do it 100%. And people don't. And people wouldn't badmouth that.
That's how we change it, by giving penalties for stuff like that. There's no that is not a hockey play. That is a barbaric play.
So you might as well take hitting out of the game.
I just don't. I don't agree from a player stance that for any reason that hit should. There's no need for it. There's just no need for it. You can give him a slight rub out. I already know that he's going for the hit. All of his momentum is going for the hit. He can make the hit. You just don't have to follow through all the way. At least make it look like the player's defenseless. I understand I'm probably in the minority thinking that he probably didn't deserve a penalty there, or that he did deserve a penalty there, but I think Byfuglien's got to start thinking a little bit more and not being so into his own hype. I honestly think he's in his own head too much, that he just thinks that he can do whatever he wants. And we've seen it all year, and last year in the playoffs, last year leading up to the playoffs. He just takes too many stupid penalties because he takes it too far. You got to dial it back a bit.
Now, based off your stance on Dustin Byfuglien and Dan's stance, obviously opposite. We've talked about this a few times. Do you think this warrants Dustin Byfuglien a new contract? Would you, Greg? I'm pretty sure I know the answer for this. I'll ask Dan same question. does this warrant him? Does this do damage for his contract, for his new contract, or does it help him in his new contract by what he's doing? Personally, I think it does damage.
The way he's played so far this season?
No, he's good. He's a force. Don't get me wrong.
Because he's played extremely well for them.
No, of course.
He's taken some penalties, but you know what? Ladd's taken a bunch of stupid penalties this year too.
Yes.
Yeah, Ladd took a bunch of stupid penalties last year too.
Who else has taken? Perot taken a bunch of stupid penalties this year.
Pretty undisciplined player. The entire team's still pretty undisciplined because they take it too far, and because they have to make up for the fact that they don't have all the skill necessarily that other teams have. They have to hit harder. They have to be stronger, and that's a great way to play. But they push the line too far sometimes. Like last year in the playoffs, I remember this very, very well. Ladd goes in on just a forecheck hit with Ryan Getzlaf. Just a routine hit. Didn't need to hit him hard. Goes a little bit over the line. Smacks Ryan Getzlaf with his stick on top of the head. Gets a high sticking penalty that turns around and turns into a goal.
Oh, you're talking about in playoffs. Well, if we're even talking about, if we're going back that far, you can even bring in the Dustin Byfuglien punch to the back of Corey Perry's head,
which Perry sold like a champ, by the way.
But
it was a punch.
You
to the
can't
back of
punch
the
a
head.
guy in the back of the head.
It was a punch,
and it led to another goal.
It was a punch. He dropped like a sack of potatoes, but it was a punch.
The fact that we defend a guy that really, he's good some nights, but most nights he hurts the team more than he helps them. Watch him play. Watch his defensive play. If he leads a rush, he's the last guy back, and he's a defenseman. PK Subban, Erik Karlsson, the guys that he's being compared to sometimes with how good he is offensively is nowhere near as talented defensively as those guys are.
Those guys are not the most talented defensemen in the world.
Don't get me wrong. If Byfuglien plays his position, he's one of the best defensive players in the league. And I'm not saying that he's not. I think he's one of the best slap shots in the league. I think he's one of the biggest power play threats, and that alone warrants him being considered one of the better players. But when you look at leading the rush and taking pucks in the zone and then getting back, he's nowhere near that top echelon of the league because he just simply either knows his limitations as if I try to get back super hard, I'm going to get tired, or he just doesn't. He's like, oh, my teammates have it, and that's not the right mentality to take. Because, I think when Dustin Byfuglien is his best is when he's not trying to do too much and he just plays his position. Because when he does that, he's just really damn good. And from last year with 10 games left into the playoffs and into this season, he still seems to be trying to do too much.
Wow.
That move in the Calgary game shows you he's got all the confidence in the world. Great. He's got great ability, but he's just I don't want to say trying too hard, but he's trying to do too much still. And you're a defenseman. I understand that move. It was beautiful. It was a great goal. But why are you in that position? And I guarantee you, if he misses that, it's an odd man rush going back because he's not going to work hard to get back. And that's my criticism of him is he's great one way or the other. If he just plays that one side.
I see.
Well, what's the positive? Bring the positive.
You know, and that's fine. I'm not discrediting your opinion. That's totally fine. I completely disagree. I think he's been one of their best players this year. I think, he took a bad penalty on a hit, but aside from that, he's been one of their best players.
Well, Greg had mentioned
he's won them a game by himself. He's a game changer. You look at a guy I personally right now, if I'm going, if I'm basing off what I've seen through 6 games, I understand it's only 6 games. If I had to sign a guy for $8 million between Ladd and Byfuglien, I'm signing Byfuglien.
I'm not.
Byfuglien's a game changer. Byfuglien's a very unique hockey player. There is no one else in the NHL that is like him. Andrew Ladd is a valuable hockey player.
Wait, hold on, Greg.
Andrew Ladd
Greg, hold on, wait.
a dime a dozen. You can get a dime a dozen Andrew Ladds. And Andrew Ladd is not a game changer. Dustin Byfuglien is a game changer.
Okay, go, Greg. Sorry. Yeah, I couldn't hear when you were both going.
No, I don't agree that he's worth $8 million. I think that is such a ridiculous number. Even think I would take Dougie Hamilton before I'd ever take Dustin Byfuglien on my hockey team.
Well,
but that's also the age too. I mean, you're
looking at age. That's a different age. But you know who's a more impactful player right now? Dustin Byfuglien.
I don't care. We don't be who they want to be. They do not need a guy like Dustin Byfuglien on that team because they're going to have enough talent up front and guys in the back. They need to help out their goaltenders. Like, their goaltenders have been great. Both Pavlik and Hutchinson have played great so far this year. I have no complaints from the goaltender standpoint. They've been great. But when push comes to shove in the last 5 minutes, Dustin Byfuglien will help you out offensively, but on the defensive side, he tries to do too much and then becomes a liability. You can see it when he plays in the playoffs. He becomes a liability.
But you're basing it off of last year.
He's taking penalties that make no sense.
This is all.
He hit a guy.
He's taken one penalty at the end of one game.
On his knees, facing the boards. On his knees, facing the boards. Why are you making that hit? It's the dumbest play in hockey. He makes stupid decisions, and he clearly hasn't learned. He's going to end up hurting the team by getting suspended this year. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets suspended at some point this season because he's going to take it too far.
Just like Tyson Barrie got suspended for taking it too far. He's a great young defenseman. Maybe he should tone it down a little bit too.
But he hasn't done it consistently.
Now there's Byfuglien. Just did it once.
True.
One time.
But
I understand that Greg obviously is not a Byfuglien fan. Greg's not a Byfuglien fan. That's fine. But we're extrapolating this into like 1,000 different possibilities that haven't happened yet. He hasn't.
No.
The Jets are 4-2.
He's been pretty bad defensively this year. At times, I appreciate his skill set. I understand how unique he is. I understand your point of the argument, Dan. From my side, from a person who I watch other defense in the league. I watch a guy like Morgan Rielly, who has all the talent in the world. I would take Morgan Rielly on the Jets before I would take Dustin Byfuglien. I would take Jake Gallagher on the Jets before I take Dustin Byfuglien. I just think there's so much. Dustin Byfuglien's 30 this year. I think any contract you sign to him, he's going to want way too much term for way too much money. He is not worth the money that the term is, and
neither is Andrew Ladd. Andrew Ladd's not a
talking about signing Andrew Ladd for $6 million over 4 years.
It's not going to be $6 million. It's going to be $7 million, and he's not worth it.
He's not worth $7. I could swallow $6 million.
He's a dime a dozen hockey player. He's good. I like him. He's the leader of that team, but he's a dime a dozen hockey player. You drop him from that team, they would be fine. That is my opinion.
Is he a dime a dozen hockey player, though? Like, we don't know what he does in that room. Yes, I've heard multiple times people have said Blake Wheeler has now become the leader of that room. Well, if that's true, then they wouldn't be putting all this effort into signing Ladd, because you were right, Dan. From a hockey standpoint, he is a dime a dozen player. You can probably find him somewhere else for cheaper, for around that $4 million, $3.5 million player. However, he's led this team in scoring multiple seasons. He's probably a fantastic leader in the room, which helps these young players out. And to me, that's worth $6 million. Not 7, but 6. And I think he's a very competent player on the ice. I think he works well with Little and Wheeler and whoever else you play him with. You know, he's not one-dimensional in his play at all. And I just...
You're paying for what he already brings to the table, which, not that you're not paying Dustin Byfuglien.
He's valuable. He's very valuable.
They're both valuable, but I just want to touch on a point that Greg mentioned beforehand. Dustin Byfuglien, when he's not trying to do everything that he wants to do, he wants to be there on the ice at all times. Of course, he's Dustin Byfuglien, and a player like with his caliber wants to do as much as he can to help the team. When Dustin Byfuglien is trying to do just what Dustin Byfuglien does without going over the line, in a system that allows him to do that, he's a great player. Just example on Flames home opener, where sure he got to do that and he was covered. This would be the team in my eyes, especially this year. This is a chance for him to even if he maybe farther down the line, close to trade deadline, things are going well, but he's still playing his game. This right now, this team is poised to let him do what he wants to do, because they're averaging, I think they have like top 5 in goals per game. I think they're averaging like 3.3 or more goals a game, which have they ever done before?
No, I think they're the top scoring team in the league right now.
Well, there you go.
They were.
If they aren't the top, they're one of the top.
They were after 4 games. I don't know where they are
and
now.
especially with the defensive prowess of the forwards and how they roll 4 lines, so not still as effectively as we'd like them to, but they still do it. This year is the year for Dustin Byfuglien to prove, hey, you know what? I may take chances, according to Greg and I may take reckless chances, but I'm worth it because I can do this. And then give him reasons as to why he's worth the money that he wants.
And I have a point to add to that because
Go ahead.
Dustin Byfuglien jumping up and into the play and taking chances is exactly how Paul Maurice wants Dustin Byfuglien to play. He was on the radio. They asked him about, because a lot of defensemen are jumping up in the play. They're pinching a lot more. And Paul Maurice said, that's how we play. We're built to do it. So the way he plays, like, obviously you guys don't like it. You don't like that he jumps up, that he goes for, that he takes chances. But that's how they want him to play.
No, I'm fine with the chances part. I'm fine with him jumping up in the play when it's smart to do so. He pinches sometimes when he doesn't need to, and then he doesn't hustle back. He just coasts back. He doesn't
every guy on that team does that. Mark Stewart does that a ton. Jacob Trouba does it a ton.
And then
they all do it.
Not as much as Byfuglien.
I think
on top of that.
But even
I think Mark Stewart's the worst for doing that.
But even if that's a style
how often does Mark Stewart jump up in the rush in a game versus Dustin Byfuglien? How many times does Dustin Byfuglien try to hold the line, miss it, then not get back, and then it becomes a 2-on-1 for Toby, or whoever his defensive partner is that night? And it's been a trend for the last 4 years. Is that's what happened. I'm not faulting him on trying to hold the line, but his success rate isn't very high, and then even then he doesn't try hard enough to get back. And Mark Stewart is in a situation where he doesn't jump up in the play all the time. He does it sometimes, and you know what? Yeah, he should get his ass back too. But you know what? I don't notice him as much as I notice Byfuglien because Byfuglien's an impact player. Mark Stewart, not so much. So I might not notice him as much, and that's probably why. But I do not think that Byfuglien needs to be trying to play the way he's playing. It's just too much for me.
Well, you can make an argument that if he doesn't do it like that, they're 3-3 right now instead of 4-2. Because he won that game by himself.
I'm not saying what he did was a bad thing. I'm just saying that if he'd missed that, it probably would have gone back and become a goal. It can easily go the other way. I'm okay with him taking some chances, but I mean, you have to try to get back. You guys play hockey with me. You guys know how I play defense. I am totally being a hypocrite here because I never get back when I go on a rush on defense. Let's be real here. But you're in the NHL. That should be what you try to do.
And I think it's what you guys are saying with Dan saying that's how Paul Maurice wants him to play. The players take chances. Trouba's great at it. Buff is great at it too. But what stands out is what you already just pointed out is that Dustin Byfuglien, it's not that he doesn't get back, which he does. But more often than not, it's more noticeable because he's kind of just doing the Dustin Penner, like, push glide, make it look like I'm semi-sliding towards you. But then again, it's also way more noticeable because we're looking for Dustin Byfuglien because, yeah, as you said, Greg, he is an impact player. Not that Stewart isn't, not that Trouba isn't or will be, but I guess it's easier to point out because Dustin Byfuglien, he is so much bigger than everyone else. And especially because in a season, I guess, like this year, not even just to point out any other year, he's looking for a contract. I'm assuming he should be trying as hard as he could.
You know what? Like, I've watched almost every game, and I still think he's playing fantastic. I don't think he's done anything wrong this year. You know, there are flaws to his game, but there's flaws to everyone's game. He's never going to be a Norris. If he ever wins a Norris Trophy, which he probably won't, if he ever does, it's not going to be for defense. I can tell you that. Points. It's going to be just like why Carlson won one and just why Subban won one, because they can put up points.
Carlson has 2 now, doesn't he?
Yeah, but you know, he's never going to be. He's never going to be a Ryan Suter caliber defensive defenseman, and that's fine. He doesn't have to be, I don't think. But,
yep, no, and I agree with you there. All I'm saying is he has to tone down the stupid penalties because he's taken 3 this year in 6 games. That's all I'm saying. And when it comes down to because this team is a good team, but I don't think any of us are blind to see that they're a cussed team. they're going to be either 5 points away from missing the playoffs, or they're always going to be a borderline playoff team. I like right now. That's just the way I see them.
To me, right now, if they play this way all year, they aren't going to be a borderline team. They're going to be a contending team. But they have to. Now, granted, they have to do this for another 75 games. We'll see. But right now, just they look. The thing I've noticed watching their games, the thing that they never had before, they always had skill. They never had confidence. They never played like a team that's been to the playoffs. That's accomplished anything. And this year, they're playing like a team that has confidence. They're playing like a team that's done something, and it's showing because they have a ton of talent. They have more depth this year than I think they've ever had.
I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that they're a good team.
If the confidence can stick around, that's it. They look like a totally different team this year to me, and I know they have pretty much the same roster, but they look totally different. They look confident. They look, they lost to St. Louis, but they did not play a bad game.
Not at all, and they've been a great third period team this year already, and they've shown how much better they've been. And they have some guys like Ehlers, who we didn't even mention, scored his first NHL goal. Good for him. It was just been excellent. We have some guys like that now, which is great. But the thing is this team is still going to be one of those teams that'll squeak in the last week and a half of the season, because the West is too tough and too spread out, and plus they play in the Central where one win one night. I don't think this team's good enough to say we can beat every team in the Central every night. We're not good enough to say every team in the Pacific will beat. We'll be competitive in every game, in every single game, which is great. But I do not see this team being 110 points with the next closest team being at 102 at the end of the season. I could be wrong, and maybe they clear the playoffs by 20 points, but I still don't think so. And I think that realistically, this is probably a 95-plus point team, which means you're a pretty darn good team. But judging by last year, that means you're going to be right close to the playoffs, or right close to being in or being out. The West is just too tight, and the Central is too tight for that to happen. And losing to Central teams in regulation doesn't help you either.
And just to touch on that was their first game against a divisional opponent, and they dropped it in regulation, nonetheless.
Yeah, but they didn't play bad.
No, we're not saying that. But it's going to be tough to. I'm with Greg in that one. I don't think anyone in the West, in the Central Division, can say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to beat this. We're going to beat everyone in our."
I don't
division.
think any team in the Central is that much better than anyone else to do that. I really don't.
We're in the toughest division in hockey, arguably.
I think Colorado, you cross them off, but I think you take any of the other 6 teams, and I think they're all pretty darn even.
Yeah, no,
I don't really see much separation.
Hardly.
I really don't, and I know we have St. Louis and we have Chicago, but I don't think Winnipeg and Nashville and Dallas and Minnesota are really that much worse. I don't.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that because those teams are so damn close, that don't be shocked if it comes down to the last few games of the season, because of the fact that it's going to be so tight all year between those 6 teams, that those 6 teams are going to be basically the class of the NHL. And because of that, it's going to be very, very difficult to say that this team's going to run away with a playoff spot. Because nonetheless, even if there's only 3 Pacific teams that make it and 5 Central teams, well, we're talking about 6 teams that are very good. And you know what? A 4th Pacific team could squeak in there. All I'm saying. But I would love it if the Jets, won the division. That'd be awesome. But and they're definitely playing better than I've ever seen them play. But at the same time, we have to look at around the league as well. Chicago's playing great. St. Louis just needs to kind of find their form, figure out the goaltending, and they can be good. Minnesota's been good. Dubnik's showing that it's not just a one-time thing. It's too early in the season to just say definitively, this is how it's going to be. But from all signs, it's going to be a tough Central Division again. So
It's going to be tough. It wouldn't surprise me if all those teams are 95-plus points, except for Colorado. I just don't think they're quite up to par with the other teams. I don't. But it wouldn't surprise me that those other 6 teams are all at least 90 points. Again.
Yeah, and which is why I say I don't.
Yeah.
Like, losing when you're a team that takes too many penalties. That could hurt you down the stretch when you're playing against teams that aren't going to do that, right? Like, St. Louis and Winnipeg have bad blood. They've been a great rivalry to watch. There's always plays like that in every game between the two. All I'm saying is when there's defensive players or when there's just not as much need to hit somebody, just this team needs to find a way to not take stupid penalties.
I will say one thing. Who hit Matthew Perreault in center ice?
I don't remember who it was, but
that hit was twice as dirty as Byfuglien's
But he
hit.
got the penalty for it.
Yes,
They called him.
that hit was a lot worse than Byfuglien's hit because the puck was nowhere near him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it was a blindside hit.
100% agree with you.
So,
100%
you know,
agree with you.
it's a rough game. It's a rough division to play in. Stuff like that's going to happen. And I agree that they need to not take stupid penalties because, honestly, if they cut down the penalties, that's probably only going to make them better.
Exactly. And all I'm saying is that was called, what happened to Perreault was called. It was still a penalty. It was a pretty stupid hit, vicious, and probably should never have happened.
It's just a dumb play.
Seriously hurt Perreault. Could seriously hurt him. But the same thing with Byfuglien. There was no need to make that hit, and the penalty was still called. So, and we already said it. The Trouba got away with one, and maybe that was the ref saying, "Oh, even though there was no infraction, I'm getting it back for that Trouba incident that I missed." Maybe that was just a make-up call, which it happens. But yeah,
we can probably argue this all day, and we probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
But
we should. We do need to move on.
The only thing I do want to say is I guarantee you at least a quarter, maybe even more of the penalties that Byfuglien gets, he only gets the penalty because he's so big and so strong that everything he does looks way worse than it is. Every hit he makes looks devastating because of how big and strong he is.
In comparison,
he can put a hand on a guy and make the guy do a backflip. I mean, and granted, he does take a lot of stupid penalties now, do a lot of stupid things. But I do think the refs need to learn how to call him properly because I do feel that he gets a lot of penalties that he does not deserve. Not saying that one was one of them, but I think they need to learn how to call properly. But that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. We'll agree to disagree on this one and maybe turn back to it later on in the season. But there's still stuff to talk about in the NHL. And I want to go back to our episode, what was it, 2 weeks ago when we talked about who we thought was going to win the Calder Trophy this year. Who was the one that set the field over Connor and McDavid?
Me.
Dan took the field.
Jack. And you're looking pretty damn good right now,
It's
Dan.
not a 2-horse race. It's like a 7 or 8 horse race right now.
No, and I wanted to touch on this, was the surgence of these rookies. You know, Panarin, Lindbergh is at, or Lundberg in
Dallas?
New York.
Oh, yeah.
Then you have Domi Duclair in Arizona, which Cam and I were talking about this on the weekend. Like, how, from New York standpoint, how do you make that deal to give up Duclair?
That's
like,
a rough
I understand
one.
you get Yandel, but God.
That's a rough one. Yeah. I'd throw Ehlers in that class. He looks pretty damn good.
He's coming along well. And go ahead.
4 points, +5, 20 shots on goal, which is the best among all rookies in 6 games. That ain't bad.
You know what? And I don't want to make this comparison, and I think that he's better, but he seems to be like Mark Scheifele was in his first season in regards to points. Like, Mark Scheifele looked pretty good in his first season. Like, I think Ehlers just looked better, more in place, more ready for the NHL. Just Mark Scheifele could never catch a break in that first year. And Ehlers, you know, he's had so many chances. Like, he could have, what does he have, 1 goal right now? He could probably have 5. Easily.
Ehlers?
He's so good. He's created so many chances for himself. And,
he has the skills to be a star. Not just good. He has the skills to be a star. If the Jets ever want a Stamkos, he's the guy that has the potential, I think.
Nick Ehlers is going to be Steven Stamkos. Mark it in!
I'm just
kidding.
I'm saying he has the skills. Evander Kane had the skills to be a star, and that never turned out to be anything.
But it seems as though...
But I think
let's
Ehlers...
be real here. He is only... Like, he might be the best Denmark player, but... to come out as... Like, he might be the best player ever to come out of Denmark. But making a comparison like Steven Stamkos, they play two different positions.
I'm
So
not
you
saying
can't
he's
compare
going to
the
be.
two.
I'm saying he has the talent to be.
No, Dan, you're wrong. Because remember that Europeans are never as good as Canadians.
Oh, that's okay.
Right.
That's where you're going with this. I was
Sorry,
ready.
Don.
Yeah, yeah. You
Sorry,
fucking.
Fuck
No,
He's something.
he's fun to watch.
Yes.
He tries to do too much still, and he's got to learn that he can't, and he will. But he's 19. I mean, it's going to be a couple years before you really know what he's going to be. But
he's showing a lot of signs, and even the experts are picking up on it, on how good he's been. And boy, like he came in at the right time. I think this year it just shows you what's going to happen next year, because he's going to grow up with this core of Scheifele and Petan and Kopp, these young guys that are going to end up dominating this team. And it's such a pleasure to see, really. Like it's been nothing but awesome.
Obviously, you don't want to throw. Obviously, you don't want to throw this comparison around, but this has to be somewhat how it feels like to be fans of back in the day of the Chicago Blackhawks, where they had like Kane, Taves, Sod, Sharp was well on his way already, Keith, Seabrook, where you're like, you see the pieces coming together, you're like, oh, they're looking pretty good, and then, well, bam!
yeah,
Look at this team.
Okay.
and if
You want to compare them to sorry to interrupt you, Dan. If you want to compare them to the Chicago Blackhawks of, let's say, 2010, who is the Marian Hossa that they bring in to finalize, put the cherry on top?
the Marian Hossa,
Hold on, then who's the thing that goes out, and what did they trade to go out? I didn't mean to call that person the thing.
but they signed Hossa at the beginning of the year, like free agent.
Well, I know,
Yeah,
but who's that piece that comes in?
Who's the veteran piece that puts him over the top?
Wait, Greg. I think. Okay, Dan, you have a guess. I think I know where Greg's leading into this because I know we both read the same article.
Who's the veteran that puts him over the top?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
I actually did not read an article, but go ahead.
let me
I'm
think.
excited to hear what you're going to say.
Who's the veteran that puts him over the top?
Oh, you guys, I'm gonna lose it in about two. Dan, you guess, and then Greg, you guess. Go,
There's one guy I'm thinking of that's available.
go.
But he would cost them. I mean, I don't know if they'd keep him. He costs them a lot of money, and maybe you guys think he's over the hill. But Eric Stahl is available in Carolina.
Ooh, okay. Greg, we're gonna talk about all these. I just want to get the guesses out of the way. Greg,
I'm not
who's your
saying that's
guess?
who I think they should get. I'm saying he's a guy. That's out
eh?
there. I'm not saying that's who I would pick, but he's out there.
How old would Yammer Yager be?
Oh, shut up.
Oh God.
Is that your guess?
Come on.
That's not my
Yeah,
guess.
Okay, you guys. Okay, Greg, go.
Who is it?
You
Who
gotta
is it?
guess.
Who is it?
See, I wasn't really super prepared for this, but let's go with. I'm just trying to think. You know what, Cam? You go and then come back to me.
Okay, who's that piece that? Okay, people will question, and he's
Jordan
been.
Eberle. There you go.
Okay, I like it.
He's
Okay,
not a veteran. Get out of here.
that's fine.
I was thinking
That's
veteran.
No, but, like,
if we're going
but-
younger, I'm going to say
ready
they're
to
going to
go.
bring in Steven Stamkos and they're going to win the cup. That's what I'm going to say.
okay. You guys, let's be realistic here. Come on now.
Even better.
Go.
I got an even better one. Rick Nash.
Oh God.
They're never getting rid of him in New
Please,
York. They
please
love him.
don't. We're not going to usurp Captain Ladd on the top line, okay? Come on. Ladd's got a better scoring prowess than Nash does, especially in the playoffs.
Nash had 40 whatever last year.
No, but in the playoffs, Nash is just like, now you see me, regular season, playoffs, now you don't. And he just fades, smoke bomb. And he's like flying away with the New York Rangers parachute instead of a Pepsi one. Okay, so this guy, beloved in the town that he was drafted in. And then he went somewhere. Kind of fell short. And then he went somewhere else. Kind of fell short. And then he signed to a divisional opponent. And now they're not doing too good. Jerome McGinley!
For the Jets?
Yes! It could happen. It's doable.
It could happen.
It could. Come on. Colorado won't ask for that much. It's a Ginla.
Yeah.
Expiring contract in 2 years.
but-
Probably 3, I think.
Yeah, but he's a $5 million cap hit.
But come on, a Ginla. Jerome.
You know what?
Yeah.
A player
But
like
it's
that-
Ginla. How great would it be if the first cup to be won in Canada since 93 was won by the Jets, and they got Jerome McGinley his first cup.
I would cry. I'm going to cry the moment Ginla raises a cup, because he will. I'm crying. There will be tears down my face, because it'll be... I don't know if you all agree with me. It'll be the modern era Ray Bork to us. Is he not the Ray Bork to our generation?
Yeah, I would agree. And here, if it happened here, that would just be ridiculous.
I ain't ready.
Yeah,
That's fair. You know what? I would take him over Eric Stahl. I really would.
He's the goal scorer. He's the trigger man.
I think you put the nail on the head there. Like, you could get him for an interesting price. Like, you could get him for cheaper. I don't think you'd have to really twist Colorado's arm too much. Maybe, just maybe, a little try it, like, be a GM mode on NHL 16. But Scott Kosmachek?
I think it's probably. Oh, again, I can't see.
I think they
it.
want something more than that.
I know, but I could see it being like an AHL / like brim player and maybe a pick, maybe a roster player,
especially
maybe
if Lad's not around.
I got it.
Wait, let Dan go and then you go.
Scott Kosmachek.
If Lad's not around
Jerome Ginla.
later this year or next year, they're going to need a veteran guy for when they do get to the playoffs.
Okay, Greg, I missed what you said. Sorry, go ahead.
I said Scott Kosmachek, Chris Thorburn, a third rounder.
Oh yeah, just get rid of everything you don't like about the Jets. Is that what you're
they'd want a
doing?
prospect who's actually got potential. Not Kosmachek. He's terrible. Let's get him out of here. I watched the Moose play last week. He's piss awful.
Wow.
One thing I have to say, watching the Manitoba Moose play, Jay Harrison looks like Bobby Orr. Seriously, that team is bad. Holy crap.
Oh really?
Jay Harrison looked like a god amongst men in that game. He was just
like.
It seemed like the game was. It seemed like everyone else was trying to catch up to the game, and Jay Harrison was just like, "This is so slow. What are we doing?" Like he just looked so much like. You can tell he's not an AHL caliber player, and it was just very obvious.
Who's the captain?
John Albert.
Oh, okay, and assistants?
Patrice Cormier and someone else. I don't remember who.
So do you? I'd love
Sorry,
to see.
I just don't think Kosmachek's that good.
Well then, okay. Obviously, we're not just going to think of, unless Mark Chipman, although he was at the concert I went to, so I know he listens to music.
Slipknot? Did you go Slipknot?
Yes, Mark Chipman.
Mark Slipknot?
Mark Slipknot Chipman is what they call him, actually. That's his nickname. No, he was at the Bros Landreth. If you don't get a chance, you should check them out. They're very good. Okay. However, obviously he doesn't listen to this podcast, but if he does, Jerome McGinley would be super sweet on the Jets, I think. Because he'd
What number is he going to wear, though?
I just thought of that.
Can't wear 12?
21, maybe. I guess reverse.
Is someone 21?
I don't think we have a
raffle.
What was his number in the Olympics?
12?
8?
No.
Was it 12? Was he 12 every year, though?
I think he...
For some reason, I don't know why I have it in my head that he
Patrick
was a different
Marleau is
number.
12, but I don't know who would take priority. Probably Ginla.
What I was going to say would be... Oh, go ahead, Greg.
I think Ginla wore 21 in 2010.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I'm not sure, though. But
that's gone, too.
My guess would be, not even number-wise, but he would give that Lad Little line a triggerman. And then you would have 3 lines of triggerman.
They have a triggerman right now.
In
Wheeler.
Damn it.
He's the guy in that line right now.
Okay. Hypothetically, since we got a bit of time, and because there wasn't much in the NHL, if Ginla hypothetically came to the team and we didn't give up like a roster, like a forward roster, what would your lines look like? Let's try and make these lines.
If I had to slot him in somewhere,
Go.
I would slot him on the 4th line. But who are you going to bump out? Burmistrov?
Bump down, people.
Bump down?
You got to bump down.
I think Burmese played well.
But Ginla, well, you need that trigger man.
Ginla's a big body. Burmese not. I think you put Ginla on the 4th line.
or Stafford.
Do you bump out Stafford?
Stafford's played pretty well.
But
no, and that's the thing though, Dan, is we're not saying bump him down because he's not. But you could even if you were able to get a guy with the talent of Drew Stafford or Alex Burmistrov on the fourth line to work with those young kids, like.
Yeah, but the only thing is if
you could run four lines every single game and wear down teams by throwing a fourth line of Kopp to Penn and Stafford.
The only problem is, though,
point,
that, and I actually wanted to ask you guys about this, the guy that would get bumped would be Nic Petan, and I don't agree with it but he got bumped out of the St. Louis game because
He was tiny.
they wanted to put Peluso in because it's a rough team.
Did Peluso even fight?
No.
How much time did he play? Like
6 minutes or something. The whole line played like 6 minutes.
So why would you even take Peluso out? Like Petan could for sure hold his own for 6 minutes.
For one, Ryan Reeves was a healthy scratch the game before. He was put back into the lineup against Winnipeg. They figured he'd be fired up.
Well, and especially because he's from here.
He's from Winnipeg. He'd be fired up. But I wanted to ask you guys, do you think this hurts Petan? That if they're playing a big physical team, they're going to say, we're going to put Anthony Peluso in. Sorry, kid. Like, should he not be in the AHL until a spot higher in the roster opens up for him, like a permanent spot? Because I just feel like he's got all the talent in the world. He deserves to make that opening night team, but I feel like he's wasted on the fourth line. I really do. So I wanted to get your guys' opinions on that.
Well, that's a very valid point.
Unless they're going to get rid of Chris Thorburn and bring in another younger guy and make the fourth line a young line, but I don't see Thorburn going anywhere. So I don't know. I feel like Petan right now, as much as it would suck, benefits more from being a top guy on the Moose for a year.
Well, we discussed this last time Greg was in town there with Josh Morrissey. How we think it's most likely he's not really ready and there's a logjam at D, but it's certainly not hurting him to play with Jay Harrison or whoever he played. Who did he line up with?
I think he played with Harrison.
So play with Jay Harrison and get top minutes in the AHL.
Yeah.
I mean, Petan does make the fourth line better here, but exactly, why would you... You're not learning anything by sitting in the press... Well, you might learn a little bit from sitting in the press box by, like, positioning and whatnot, but I'd rather play than be sat. So, if I'm going to play, and playing means go to the AHL isn't what it was back in the day where it's like, oh, good luck, bud. You're not on the team. Now it's like, hey, go to the AHL, ECHL, where we can develop you, and you'll get a little better. And then when you're ready, and we have a spot for you, boom, welcome to the team. You're already here.
Just, what would it do for his confidence to go, you've played well, but we're playing a big team, so we're going to put our one of our tough guys in. For a young guy, like, that might be a bit of a confidence killer right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I have no problem with them putting Peluso in against St. Louis because that's the kind of game it is. And St. Louis has those guys in the lineup. They have Steve Ott, they have Ryan Reeves in the lineup, but I just don't think Nic Petan should have to be the guy that gets yanked because of that.
Valid point. Now, I want to touch on two things that are not Jets before we wrap up the podcast. First thing, I think we missed both these last podcast, Cameron, so we did drag a little bit, but two quick things I want to touch on is Alex Ovechkin missed his alarm and was scratched for a hockey game. Is that a big deal?
Well, you're the captain. You're supposed to be setting an example, so I guess that doesn't look great.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it goes back to the Tyler Seguin thing in Winnipeg when he claimed that he had the time zones mixed up or something. Whatever the case was.
Okay, the classic alarm mix-up.
I don't know.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. I don't.
If I'm a coach, sleeping in, you might let him go once or twice. But I think, and basically from the podcast that we both listened to, I agree with them, the Steve Dangle podcast. They just basically said, you're the captain of a team who are contenders and are expected to go far. You're the leader. You set the precedence. You can't go thinking you're all hot shit and being able to sleep in. So you know what? I think he took one. Sure, they ended up losing. Who was it against again? The Blues?
Sharks.
Sharks. Was it Sharks?
I don't know.
Sorry, the Sharks. Either way,
I don't remember.
If you're the captain, you set how you want everyone to act. You lead, even if you're not vocal, you lead by example. Don't show up late and don't come up. Sure, very well might have had an alarm, but that's an excuse. You should have been there either way. You're in the NHL. You've been in the NHL for 10 years now. It's not acceptable, especially as a leader of a team. I'm totally fine with him being benched. And unfortunately, if Dustin Byfuglien or Andrew Ladd, whoever does that, do it. That's what you do. And maybe down the line, say if they lose out by one game, people who like haters or whatever might come out and say, "Oh, it was that game. You shouldn't have benched him." You don't know that. It's hard to predict the future because no one can predict the future. I don't think. I know Miss Tallulah just has a bucket of KFC. That's garbage. Like if you ever seen Miss Tallulah on TV back in the day, would she shake the bucket? You never. I mean, never mind. I'm crazy.
I have no idea.
It's like, oh, Miss Tallulah, child, and just like shake. What? Never mind. Anyways, I'm okay with benching anyone if they're late. You said, and especially being a leader.
Well, like I said, you're supposed to. If you're the captain, you're setting the expectations. You're leading by example. So, good for Barry Trotz for sitting him down. A lot of coaches might be gun shy with a guy like Ovechkin to say you're not playing tonight.
And Barry Trotz has even done it in the playoffs before with Alexander Radulov. You remember that a couple years ago?
Oh, a bit of a different player, but yes, I remember.
Well, yeah. Bit of a different player, and he was out at like one of the training staff saw him at like 4 a.m. on the way back to the arena.
Didn't he whack the training staff in the face with his stick once because he was like freaking out on the bench? Isn't that a video of him like smoking his stick and every time he goes back he like whacks the trainer in the head?
Oh, wasn't that KHL?
Well, yeah, but that's him, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
He's a little crazy.
I'll tweet that link. Go ahead, Greg.
You guys say that Alex Ovechkin and Alexander Love aren't the same person. They both have the name Alex and are from Russia. Like, same player. Totally.
They're pretty much, yeah.
They're twins. They're both amazing. My take on it is, yeah, you have a team that wants to contend, and what kind of precedents are you setting for guys like Evgeny Kuznetsov and Bartkowski and or Burakovsky? Is it Burakovsky or Burakovsky that's in?
Burakovsky.
Burakovsky is the one that's in Washington. So yeah, like what are you setting for them? Saying that just because you're a leader, you don't have to follow team rules. That's not a good way to help. And if the coaching staff condones it, it only breeds trouble in the locker room, which is not what you want. So, on Barry Trotz, I agree with it 100%. Now, Cam clearly is listening to the same podcast I have, but I wanted to bring this up last podcast, but I forgot to. I was going to bring the whole numbers of the Mike Richards settlement, but I want to talk about the other thing that's on my mind is, does he play in the new year?
Mike Richards?
Does he play in the new year?
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about this before, just briefly. I'll say mine. He wasn't good enough to make the LA Kings last year. It might have been due to the fact of his substance abuse, but he wasn't even good enough to play on the fourth line. Sure, LA is deep, but they're not as crazy deep. They're not as crazy deep as other teams, per se. Personally, I don't think he's good enough to play in the NHL anymore. And if it is, it's on a bargain contract to prove it, and I don't think he'll prove it. And this is coming from quite a big Mike Richards fan. I think he's lost his touch.
I'm a fan too. I think if he can clean himself up and he can show he's committed, I think he'll get a crack somewhere with somebody for a bargain. And you know what? If he comes with the mentality that he wants to prove himself, I think then that will be a great bargain for whoever signs him. But there's, like Cam said, the fact that he couldn't even crack an NHL squad last year on the fourth line. So.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Hey, Florida's always out there. Florida is always out there.
Florida's good now.
Hey, yeah, that's
true. Florida's a team. Detroit, just to shore up that fourth line, like you could put Mike Richards there, but.
You know what team I could see if they needed a guy for a playoff push? They've expressed interest in him before. He'd be a bottom line guy, but you know who I could see taking a crack at him?
The Philadelphia Flyers.
No.
Nah, they've missed that boat.
The Jets.
Oh, instead of Kopp and Petan, or other center.
Taking Richards.
They've shown interest in him from before. He's pretty much a hometown guy. I don't think he'd have a problem coming here. He knows a lot of the guys in the team. If they need a veteran guy for a cheap deal to help them in the playoff, I could see them taking a stab.
I thought you were going to say Calgary.
Well,
you know what? You're right, though. He's a pretty cheap guy.
It wouldn't. Calgary's another team that I could see going for him. Because
Mm-hmm.
they have a pretty young team.
Or even
too.
Vancouver.
Yep.
Oh.
There's like the thing is I think that if he can find his magic again, and if he signs for the right money. You know, he gets signed for $700,000, and just if it doesn't work out, he gets sent down. Right? That's all it would be. He would just get sent down, and I think it's a win-win for a team in the sense that okay, it's $700,000, whatever. You can bring him on, and it's not even a full $700,000 because he's not playing the full year. So I don't think he has to get paid the full amount. So you bring him in, you take a risk. It doesn't work out well. He's on a cheap enough contract. You can just send him down to the AHL or to the ECHL. He could end up in the ECHL or whatever. And it could be a redemption story, or it could be the final chapter of his NHL book and career.
I think for whoever gives him a gamble, if it's cheap, I think it's a very low risk gamble.
Yeah,
it's a low risk gamble, and if it pays off, then it's potentially quite a good payoff, I think. But
now, a guy who the team took a chance on this year, after being traded for a second-round pick last year, is now retiring. Curtis Glencross retires at the age of 32 after only playing in the league for 7 years, coming in at the age of 25, undrafted. And for a guy that was traded last year to the Washington Capitals for a second-round pick, there's got to be something going on there of why he's fallen off so much.
For a guy that
from someone who's not to interrupt you, Dan, but from someone who's such a Calgary fan, what do you think happened to him?
Yeah, and I just want to add, because I remember a couple of years ago they were talking about the Flames cleaning house. He was one of the guys that they said, we're not moving this guy, we want him.
Well, when he came in and he really I remember Curtis Glencross and David Moss are great together on the third and fourth line. They were younger guys, and I'm not sure what really trailed off, but I think I don't want to rest on my laurels and go back to what everyone else keeps saying, but I really think he took that hometown discount when, or no, did he? He didn't take the hometown discount, right?
Is he from Calgary?
No, I'm just drawing blank on what happened in the contract negotiation.
Is he from Calgary though?
No, but just a hometown discount in terms of the team that
stay.
Yes. Either way, I think he should have explored his options a little more, but not maybe even a little more. Like I'm talking about way back when he was in his prime, but like maybe he should have asked for a little less and got more term. I don't even know. Like it seems as though basically when he jumped around to a few teams and he went to Washington and then he went to, where else did he go to? Or that's it.
Yeah, and then he had a PTO with Toronto this year.
Then he had a PTO. He only played for 3 teams, or technically 3 teams.
He had a PTO with Toronto and he had a PTO with Colorado.
And Colorado.
Didn't get signed by either of them.
I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe he should have just stayed in Colorado or in Calgary. I don't know. It's really a shame because I really liked his game. Like just as he knew what his role, like a Thorburn, he knows what his role is and he does the best he can.
But like this goes back to the whole Winnipeg not signing Lee Stempniak, a guy who scored 15 goals last year, had a great year, but could barely find a job this year because he's older, 32. You know, like it's there's becoming more and more of these guys who can't get jobs anymore, and that you never used to see that.
Now, here's just, I read something that he has 2 daughters and an infant son. So he's got 3 kids now. Could it be something where maybe your head's just not there anymore and your head's more at home? Like, one thing that no one ever really talks about for reasons why players leave, sometimes it's family, but sometimes they just fall out of love with hockey in the sense that they want to wake up and do that every morning. Maybe they want to wake up and be there with their family. And maybe that's what hurt him, you know? Maybe it came down to the point where he's like, do I want to wake up every morning, go to hockey, and say bye to my family, or do I want to wake up every morning and have my family next to me?
That's a great point, Greg. Just even dating back, or like even just earlier this year, I'm not sure if we mentioned on the podcast, but top pair. Ivan Provorov's D partner last year was what was his name? Ryan Pallon. And Ryan Pallon just got drafted by the Islanders. Just got drafted. And everyone thought, like, it'd be cool to draft Provorov and then the second round take Pallon and just keep him. And Pallon, going into this year, Brandon Weekings are like one of top 5 teams in junior in Canada in the CHL right now. They're expected to contend, if not win, the Memorial Cup. It's being hosted in Red Deer. And he stepped away from hockey, saying hockey left apart, or he left hockey. It left his heart, is what I'm trying to say. I'm tongue-tied. And just being drafted. So it's like, you don't even know how many guys are playing the game just for a paycheck. Like, maybe they lost their love for the game. And maybe Glenn Cross, maybe he didn't lose his love for the game, but maybe he doesn't want to lose it, and that's why he's stepping away from hockey. I hope maybe in some facet he's back with the team eventually, back with a team in terms of development or scouting or anything like that. That'd be great. But you know what? As you mentioned, that is an interesting take. How we never think about the people behind the scenes, the family that keeps your motor going for more than half the time. Obviously, the whole time. It's your family. It's your love of your life or whoever it is, and it's interesting to see. It is a shame. It is a shame that he is stepping away, but it's definitely for a reason that's not a bad one for sure.
No. The other thing too with him is he could have been, playing with a pension and saying, I want to leave when I played 500 games. I'm not sure if he actually hit the 500 game mark, but maybe that was his goal. Or maybe the other thing is, too, he wanted to step away before he did irreversible damage to himself. Maybe he looked at himself and he said, I would have to push myself for 6 months in the gym this year and maybe get a job. And then who knows what could happen. I could one accident and I might not be able to, I could end up like Nathan Horton, or I can end up like Chris Pronger, and maybe he weighed the risks. And yeah, I don't know if anyone's talked about it. I haven't seen it, but I just thought it was a different view that most people haven't seen or heard.
No, it's obviously he did weigh the pros and cons, and yeah, I don't know if I'd want to. I mean, not that Chris Pronger hasn't lived an excellent life, and I think he's one of, if not the highest paid NHL player of all time. I know he's in the top 10 for sure. He's got to be. Anyways, is all that money and career and fame worth waking up and not being able to remember that you have kids or your kid's name? I don't know if that is. To me, I don't know if I'd take that. I'd take the 7-year career, and I'm sure he's had a money planner and he's thought about it. Or maybe he hasn't thought about it, but I'm sure he's managed his money well enough that he's going to be okay for the next little while, and then maybe eventually down the line he'll come back for a job.
He's made enough money that he's going to be okay for the rest of his life. I can guarantee you that.
Well, it depends on what kind of life he lives, but obviously if he has a family.
Yes, but he's a Norris Trophy winner, I believe.
Who? Glenn Cross?
Pronger.
Oh, no, I'm talking about
Pronger.
No,
Glenn Cross. He's got millions. He's got millions.
No.
He's fine.
I'll talk about Glenn Cross back there. Yeah. I was like, Dan, you okay?
Sorry.
All right, Greg, what else you got for us?
That is it, guys. I think that is episode 63.
Sidney Crosby got his first point of the season, 2 weeks in.
Bravo, Sidney. Bravo. You're a long way from Claude Giroux, okay? I think Giroux's like 3 points.
Yeah, I took him in my fantasy team. Thanks for that.
All right, Greg.
Yeah, Voracek hasn't done much either.
Hey.
You had a fact for me about Wheeler.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got a question. Greg, you can try and answer this. I have never heard of this guy.
I'm thinking about it. I think I know who it is.
Okay, Blake Wheeler is only the second Jets/Thrasher player in franchise history to have points in the first 6+ games. Who was the other player? He played on the team on the Atlanta Thrashers in the year 2000. Go.
Pascal Rayom.
Pascal Rayom is your guess? Greg, who's your guess?
Ray Ferraro.
Ooh, both very great guesses. The gentleman's name is Daniel Audette.
Oh, I remember him. And
you know what?
He made the All-Star game one year. I just think it's...
Did he really?
Yeah.
You know what? Dan's not even lying about, like, I remember him. Dan's, like, grade 3 or 4 picture. Which one is that? Were you wearing the Thrasher jersey? It's your caller ID on my phone. It's awesome.
4.
In grade 4.
Giving the people's eyebrow.
He's giving the people's eyebrow, the Rock people's eyebrow, wearing a Thrashers jersey. Oh, speaking of Thrashers, I found it was just on, like, Reddit hockey jerseys. I came across it. It was like, jersey sold, but I thought you guys might enjoy this post. And the post, it showed a Thrashers jersey, and the guy wrote it as, asking for $30, size XL CCM, weird bird-looking jersey, and then with a question mark. That's all it was posted as. And it was a Thrashers jersey.
Some people never know the struggle I went through.
Yeah. All right, Greg, you got any closing words for us?
On the podcast, the same way that it started. In a galaxy far, far.
In a galaxy. Sorry, go ahead. We'll let you finish up.
We're giving Star Wars a bunch of free advertising that they can afford to pay us for. but that's fine.
Yeah, send us that Star Wars. You know what? If anyone in Star Wars, Marvel, Lucas, anyone universe comes across this,
So
can you send Greg or can you send us a life-size Jar Jar Binks toy?
Please. One of those. Oh, what are they called? Fatheads.
Yeah, fathead.
A fathead of Jar Jar Binks.
We'll give it to Greg for Christmas.
I hate you, Cameron. Check us out on.
Why do you hate Jar Jar?
No, leave it.
Oh,
Leave it.
come on.
Check us out. Email us your questions and comments to lastnightinpc@gmail.com. Also, check us out on YouTube if you're listening to this on podcast app. But if you're not listening to it on a podcast app, check us out on iTunes and also on Podbean? Podomatic. That's the one.
There we go.
Check us out there. And, see you guys next week for episode 64 of this great run that we're on in the 2015-16 season.